Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto gets a bloodline from Shinigami, part 1. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. The sound of steel rang out, as Haku and Sasuke traded blows once more. Both growled, as their kunai, and struggled against the others respectively. Zabuza was slightly impressed to see a green behind the ears genin matching up against his tool. Sakura. Kakashi ordered his pink-haired genin, stay in front of Tazuna. Sasuke will handle the hunter nin. Goddess-sensei. Sakura chorais, bringing a kunai in front of her. Meanwhile, Haku blocked Sasuke's kunai with her needle. Please stand down, I don't want to have to kill you, she said calmly. Please, like someone like you could beat me, Sasuke replied. Your confidence will only result in your failure, as I have an advantage over you. As you can see that all around us is water that you so thoughtfully provided earlier, and now I have one of your arms restrained from making seals. However, I am not as restrained as you are, Haku said, as she made a series of seals on her unoccupied hand, making Sasuke look on in alarm. When Haku finished her seals, she stomped on the ground, calling out 8,000 needles of death. The water on the ground leapt up into the air, as if it held life before reforming into 1,000 long needles of ice. The needles surrounded the Uchiha, and looked ready to take him out, but the boy was doing something else. He closed his eyes, and began to concentrate on his chakra. Remember the training, and focus my chakra from my body to my feet, he thought, as he did just that before his eyes snapped open. Haku hopped backwards, as her technique flew towards Sasuke with quick precision. Haku hopped back far enough to avoid taking damage from her own technique, but once she looked up she saw the Uchiha high in the air. The burst of chakra alerted her senses, as Sasuke unleashed his signature fireball technique upon the young girl, which she dodged by hopping to the side, and threw a couple of Sasuke which went through him, and caused him to vanish from sight. A clone, she thought before she felt a second burst of chakra behind her, and caused her to hop to the side to dodge a kunai. When she got up she heard a voice behind her back. You're so slow that it's pathetic, from now on it will be you that dodge my attacks, Sasuke said before continuing the assault on the ice user. He sent a side slash with a kunai that Haku ducked under, and followed it with a kick to the girl's head, which was the same result as last time. Sasuke, however, continued to allow his moves to flow and follow one another, and eventually he hit his mark by kicking her in the chest, causing her to fall onto her back. Zabuza couldn't believe that his loyal subordinate was losing a battle of speed. Kakashi told him so, too. I can't have you underestimating my team. Now Sasuke is the #1 rookie in Konoha, Sakura is one of the brightest, and Naruto is the hyperactive knucklehead unpredictable ninja of the leaf. Zabuza started to chuckle, before he laughed, and turned towards Haku. Haku, it's time for us to get serious, he said with Haku slowly rising to her feet, knowing what Zabuza last said was a silent command on her part to no longer hold back. Chakra soon began to rise from her body, and soon it went above the level Sasuke was able to produce. Her bloodline began to react to the rise in chakra, as water began to float in the air, and surrounded her body before becoming ice shards once more, and flew at the Uchiha in high speed, which she narrowly dodged. She then made a new seal, planning to use one of her unique jutsus. Sasuke stood prepared for whatever the girl was planning to use against him, until he began to notice something. He began to feel the air becoming colder by the second, with Haku remaining completely still, and held her hands in the strange seal. The air then began to freeze all around him, with the moisture in the air becoming solid. The ice continued to build before forming 21 solid and reflective ice spheres. Haku then brought her arms down, and simply said, crystallized spheres. What's with this? Kakashi asked himself, as he examined them. It seemed familiar to him, but he could not place it. That's not normal ice used in snow country, is it? He asked the demon of the mist. Exactly, Kakashi, but you'll never get to know it, Zabuza said before clashing his giant blade with Kakashi's puny kunai. From within the ice mirrors, Sasuke watched, as Haku's image prepared to make a move on him, and try to destroy him. Well then, are you ready? It's time for me to show you what my true speed can do, she said, as she held up her needles, with Sasuke standing at full alert for the following attack. But soon as he started to move, a scream of pain left his throat, as he was engulfed in a torrent of metal needles. When Haku stopped, she saw that Sasuke was now riddled with needles, and covered in bloody cuts on his face, arms, and legs. Sasuke coughed up blood before glaring at Haku. But before a word could be said, Haku prepared to attack again. Kakashi saw that last attack by Haku, and tried to assist his student, but Zabuza was continuing his assault on the Jounin, as he sent a horizontal slash at Kakashi, making the silver-haired man jump back. Panting, he tried to think of a way to defeat him. Sakura, on the other hand, was extremely worried about Sasuke, as she was becoming increasingly distressed at seeing her teammate getting beaten horribly, and felt the need to do something, and quickly, or else Sasuke would die. It soon became too much to handle when Sasuke was engulfed in a torrent of needles, and immediately it caused her to turn to the old man beside her. I'm sorry, Tazuna-san, but I must leave your side for a moment, she said with Tazuna looking at the pink-haired girl for a moment before he nodded. I understand, do what you have to do, Sakura. He said with the girl nodding before moving towards the ice mirrors before her before jumping into the air with a kunai in hand. She screamed loudly from all the practice in her years of being a fangirl, throwing the kunai at the cage, inwardly praying that it would somehow in some way assist Sasuke in his fight. However, her efforts would prove futile, as Haku caught the flying projectile with ease, and held the weapon in her outstretched arm. She then looked towards Sakura with a disappointed expression being shown from her body movements. If you kept quiet you could have attacked me or assisted your friend, she said before she felt something was coming in her direction. Her senses proved itself to be correct, as Haku was struck across her face mask with a shuriken, catching the girl completely off guard. The force of the hit was enough to knock her out from her mirror, and caused her to hit the ground with a face plant. As she got up, a brand new voice spoke all over the bridge that caused both battles to stop dead in their tracks. The blast of smoke, and Naruto stood before them, his hands raised like Zabuza's, as if performing the hidden miss technique. There's no need to fear, he said grinning. Naruto Uzumaki is here. Loud little brat, Zabuza muttered before reaching into his shuriken pouch and chucked them at the blonde. Bringing out his kunai knife, Naruto prepared to block them when they were deflected and fell harmlessly to the ground. Looking at the deadly weapons he saw they were needles. Haku, what is the meaning of this? Zabuza demanded his accomplice. Zabuza, I want to fight them my way, Haku answered, her voice muffled by the mask, making her sound like a guy. Raising a non-existing eyebrow at the statement, the demon of the mist sighed. You're as soft as always. Looking down at himself, Suk cursed, knowing it was true. The wounds hurt, that was a given, but they were far from fatal. And what was worse is that he didn't know how to defeat this. He just couldn't see the reason for it. But Naruto was here now, and while the blonde was an absolute idiot, he knew that he would get serious and distract the false hunter ninja. Hey, I came to save you. And just like that, Sasuke knew he was screwed. You idiot. What on earth possessed you to come inside the mirrors? Sasuke yelled at his teammate. What did you say? I came to save you, and this is what I get, you ungrateful bastard, Naruto yelled back. Taking advantage of their bickering, Haku merged into the nearest ice mirror, and then started to barrage them with a volley of needles. Trying to follow with your eyes is impossible. You will never be able to catch me, Haku said, readying herself to attack again. That's a load of shit, Naruto shouted out, standing straight up after the attack. He brought his index and middle fingers together and shouted, Shadow Clone Jutsu. In a giant cloud of smoke 20 Narutos appeared. Letting out a battle cry, the real Naruto and his small clone army charged at the 21 ice mirrors, intending on shattering them. It was a massacre for Naruto, his clones were absolutely decimated. And the original fell right on his ass with a couple more needles embedded in his torso. This uses the mirror's reflection to transport me. From my point of view, you seem to be moving in slow motion, Haku said, with the two looking stunned seeing this guy's pure speed. Kakashi's head snapped upon hearing that last statement made by the ice user, and turned his attention towards Zabuza, a surprised expression on his face. I knew it, for a kid to master like that, Kakashi said when Zabuza started chuckling. Like that? Sakura asked, confused at what Kakashi was implying. The bloodline, Kakashi said bluntly, a deep blood lineage and superior genealogy. It's passed down by your ancestors, he continued on, drawing a baffled look from her. So wait, that means? Yay, you can compare it to my Sharingan. Those two are in deep trouble. In the dome, Naruto heard Kakashi's explanation and smirked hearing it. So what? Big deal, you have a bloodline that won't stop me from fulfilling my dreams, he exclaimed, his voice never wavering. His exclamation caused Haku's eyes to soften behind her mask, as the memory of the day she was found by Zabuza plagued her mind. The day that Zabuza found her after she was on the streets, cold, hungry, and soulless, just waiting to die. But then Zabuza found her, and gave her a reason to live. She became his tool and father figure, and for that gave her the will to live again. Becoming a true shinobi was difficult for me, and it still is today. If possible, I don't want to have to kill you. Nor want you to have to kill me, Haku said, her voice shaking a little behind the mask. But if you come at me, I will destroy my kind heart and become a true shinobi. This bridge is a place where we fight to connect our dreams. Me, for my dream. And you for your dreams. Tears fell from her eyes and collected at the bottom of her mask. Please don't hate me. I want to protect someone precious to me. To work for that person. To fight for that person. To make that person's dreams come true. That is my dream. Her voice then filled with determination. For that, I can become a true shinobi. For that I can kill you. Sasuke-kun. Naruto. Don't listen to him, you can beat him. Sakura shouted at them, hoping beyond hope that they would prevail. No, Sakura. Don't egg them on, Kakashi said, stopping her from saying more, drawing another confused look from the stupid fangirl. Even if they somehow defeat that, they cannot beat that boy. What do you mean? She asked, making the demon of the mist laugh at her naivety. They don't have the strength to destroy their hearts and kill another person. That young man knows the true pain of being a shinobi. Zabuza said, keeping up the charade of Haku being a guy. A real shinobi can't be created in a peaceful village like yours. Because you can't gain the most important thing. The experience of killing. And from what I've seen, only one of you wet behind the ears, Genin, is capable of such a feat. He continued on, infuriating the copycat ninja at such a claim. I'm going to end this instantly. The copycat ninja said, bringing his left hand to his aid. Sharingan again. Is it the only thing you can do? Zabuza sneered, getting really tired of this trick. As Kashi started lifting this aid, the eyebrowless man reached under his shirt and pulled out a kunai. Quickly adding chakra to his feet, the demon of the mist launched himself at him, aiming to take out Kakashi's Sharingan eye. It was too late to dodge, so Kakashi quickly brought up his right hand to defend. The kunai embedded itself in his hand, causing a massive amount of blood to splatter onto the ground. With his normal eye, Kakashi glared at the demon of the mist. You asked if it's all I can do, but you are afraid of my Sharingan, Zabuza. Kakashi taunted, blocking the pain from experience he received in the 3rd grade Shinobi War. The Shinobi Supreme technique is not something that should be shown to your opponent over and over again. Zabuza snarled at him. You should feel honored, you're the only person to have seen it twice. There will not be a 3rd time. Kakashi replied. Heh, even if you defeat me you can't win against Haku. Ever since he was a kid I taught him all different kinds of fighting skills. Even facing the greatest adversity, he succeeded. Without heart nor fear of death, a fighting machine known as a shinobi. And even he surpasses mine by his terrifying bloodline. I gained a high-quality tool for myself. Unlike the scrap that follows you around. He said, pulling the kunai from Kakashi's palm. There's nothing as boring as a man's bragging. Let's get this started. Kakashi replied, lifting his aid, his Sharingan flashing. Zabuza jumped backwards to avoid any possible attacks. Backing further way down the bridge. Hold on for a second. I'll use your own words and brag about one more thing. The last time you said this to me. I'll tell you this. The same will not work twice against me, won't it? I have already seen through the trivial system of your eye. In the previous fight, I wasn't just getting beat like an idiot. I had Haku hide in the background and examine every aspect of the battle. My tool told me how to beat your Sharingan after only seeing it once. Ninja art. Hidden mist jutsu. He called out. Zabuza gradually disappeared as a thick impenetrable mist blanketed the area, leaving Kakashi waiting for the next move. This fog is so thick I doubt even Zabuza could see through this. Kakashi muttered under his breath. But when he saw some familiar shape speeding through the mist, he deflected several with his kunai. Impressive that you could block those Sharingan, Kakashi. Came a voice from behind Kakashi. Spinning around, Kakashi saw Zabuza standing with one hand in the controlling hand sign for the. But what really amazed him was the fact that Zabuza's eyes were closed. But the next time either of you see me will be the end of everything. You have overrated your Sharingan a little too much. What? Kakashi demanded, hoping that Zabuza didn't figure it out. Oh, how wrong he was. You acted as if you knew everything, but you can't read my mind nor see my future, Kakashi. The Sharingan is simply a trick that makes your opponent think you can. It's basically an eye technique involving hypnotism and an attention to detail. Using these two abilities together, you can progress from copying the body to copying the mind to copying the. This is the dance that makes it look like you can predict the future. First with that keen eye you copy my movements and shape my mind. Then when I'm confused you are able to figure out what I'll say and then become me. Then once the worry and confusion is at its peak, you attack with a clever trick. You attack my mind with a hypnotic suggesting what sea I should perform next, and then you copy that. Zabuza laughed. So the answer is simple. First with this thick mist I render your eyes useless. The demon of the mist proceeded to punch Kakashi in the chest, sending him backwards. And by keeping my eyes closed, I removed the chance of being hypnotized. Kakashi patted, regaining his breath after that punch. But why? You can't see anything either. Have you forgotten that I am a genius in the art of silent killing, taking down my enemy by just their sound? At those words, Kakashi turned his head on instinct in the direction he knew Sakura and Tazuna to be. Oh no. He thought, his body disappearing, as he quickly moved to the pair, appearing between them, and Zabuza just in time to barely block an attack. From the mist, Sakura's screams could be heard. Meanwhile during Kakashi's fight Naruto was barely holding on to consciousness, while Sasuke was busy defending himself from barrages of needles. He focused chakra into his eyes to see better, and duck out of the way from another barrage of needles. Unbelievable, but how was he able to see it? Haku thought before she got her answer when Sasuke raised his head to look at her. Within his eyes were no longer the regular onyx black of the Uchiha clan, but were now the famed crimson red eyes with two tomo in the left eye, and one in the right. Haku now knew that Sasuke was now using the Sharingan that was now active. Haku then knew she couldn't afford to waste any more time. She quickly exited her mirror, and went towards a prone Naruto. Cursing, Sasuke pumped the last of his chakra into his legs, hoping to make it there in time. Kakashi clutched at his chest, trying to stem the flow of blood from the new slash going diagonally down his chest. He had managed to come between Zabuza and Sakura and Tazuna in time, but only with seconds to save their lives, as a human shield. "You are too slow, Kakashi." Zabuza growled at him, ashamed his skills dulled over the years. It was truly pathetic in his opinion. "Did your desire to save that cannon fodder cloud your mind, and make it even thicker? Even with that impressive eye, your ability to read my movements is dimming. Try, and hand it in there. I want to savor the fun, as I return a favor from my defeat earlier. Don't worry about the genin behind us." He grinned under his bandages. "Haku has probably already killed them. Plus I am about to send you to the same place as them. I think you can apologize to them in the next life, apologize for lacking the strength to protect them." He then went into a mocking laughter. It was Sakura who finally perked up, yelling, "Sasuke-kun won't be beaten that easily." Completely forgetting about Naruto. Kakashi smiled from beneath his face mask. "Exactly. I believe in their strength and Naruto's determination," he said, not hearing her entire screeching. "And Sasuke is the offspring of Konoha's most outstanding clans." "You mean?" Zabuza asked, knowing exactly what Kakashi was saying. "Yes, that boy's full name is Sasuke Uchiha. A genius with the blood of the Uchiha clan running through his veins." Kakashi finished his thoughts. "An offspring of that tragic clan. But that's the same with Haku. No one has ever defeated that special," he said, disappearing into the mist again. "Sakura, stay here." Kakashi ordered his genin, causing her to stand still. "Can you hear me, Zabuza? You seem to believe that I survived in this world with only my Sharingan. You seem to forget I am a former member of the Anbu, and you know what that means. And you know what kind of shinobi I truly am. I can do more than just copy. I shall show you my own original," he said, cupping his hand beneath a specific pouch on his jacket. In the ice mirrors, Naruto stirred and saw the hunter ninja on the ground. "He's all you do is get in the way," Sasuke said above him. Smiling seeing that Sasuke beat him, Naruto looked up to congratulate him. But his smile faded, and his face turned into a mixture of horror and absolute shock. Because Sasuke was covered in needles, his arms, legs, torso, and especially his neck were riddled with going through him. Why did you save me?" Naruto asked, shocked by the fact that Sasuke did this. Sasuke, smirking slightly, as blood leaked from his mouth. "I hated you." "Then why?" "I never asked for your help." "I don't know, my body just moved on its own." He coughed up a large amount of blood and collapsed, and Naruto caught him before Naruto caught him when he almost hit the ground. "That man," Sasuke gasped out, as his eyes began to close. "That man I swore to kill my brother. I told myself that I wouldn't die until I killed him." He winced, as he looked at Naruto. "Don't die either." And then his eyes closed, and his body became cold. "He landed a blow on me without even flinching, and died protecting you." To protect a precious person, knowing it was a trap, he still jumped in. He is a shinobi that deserves respect. Haku said, her voice was void of emotion as she stood up. "Is this your first death of a friend?" "That is the way of the shinobi," she said, sadly stepping into the nearest ice mirror. "Shut up," Naruto shouted at the fake hunter ninja. "I won't forgive you." Still hunched over Sasuke's body, foul demonic red chakra emitted from his body and looked up to face her. His eyes were slitted blood red, full of malice and rage. "I'm going to kill you," he roared out, his voice dark and demonic, promising death. Haku watched in fascination and horror as the red chakra surrounded his body. His face became more pronounced, as his whisker-like marks became darker in color, with his canines turning to small fangs. When he opened his eyes, the evil feeling of the chakra overwhelmed her, as she felt her hands shaking in fear, and almost the need to run from him, and never come back. Haku felt a multitude of fears going all throughout her body, as she saw the chakra veil take on the shape of a fox. She felt even further frightened, seeing how chakra is supposed to be invisible to the naked eye, and for an instant, she could swear that it was an image of a glaring fox. "What is this chakra?" she asked herself, as his wounds healed, and the needles from his previous attacks popped out of his body. "That's impossible for chakra to change like this. It feels so evil, and full of malice. And his wounds are healing. Who is this boy?" she questioned inside her head, while preparing for Naruto's attack. Kakashi and Zabuza all blinked, as they felt the sudden burst of evil chakra. Kakashi looked into the mist desperately, as he withdrew a scroll from one of the pouches on his flak jacket. "Is that Zabuza?" "No. This terrible chakra can't be Naruto." Knowing he didn't have much time left, Kakashi flipped his scroll into the air with his right hand, and moved his left hand up to his chest wound. He stuck his finger in the wound, and in a single practice motion caught the scroll, opened it, and swiped his bloody finger down the length of the inscriptions. Spinning the open paper around his body in preparation for the Kakashi called out to the demon of the mist, "I know you can hear me, and you know neither of us have time to waste. This might not be your style, but let's end this fight right here and now," he said, catching the scroll, as it furled itself up in a focusing seal. "HMPH, sounds interesting. What could you possibly do in this situation? Show me, Kakashi." Zabuza shouted from within the thick mist. In the ice mirror dome, Haku moved quickly and threw 6 needles towards Naruto. Naruto simply let out a demonic roar that blew them away. He then proceeded to jump up to attack her. She fled the mirror from years of training, and just in time, as he punched where she just was a second ago, destroying the mirror. She fell to the ground completely shocked that her mirror was destroyed, but she didn't have time to think about it when she rolled away as he came down on her. His punch destroyed the ground which she stood on, resulting in her tumbling towards him after trying to get towards another mirror. She tried to get away, but he grabbed her arm, nearly causing it to break. Naruto then brought his right arm back, and with all the strength he could muster, he punched Haku's masked face, forcing her to fly backwards through one of her mirrors, and roll on the ground before hitting an iron rail guard. As she crumbled, Naruto roared out and ran on all fours like an animal. As he neared her, her mask started crumbling, revealing parts of her face. He brought his right arm back to finish her off, and thrust it forward. As his punch was about to reach her face, her mask fell off. Everything around them stopped. The wind didn't blow, the birds didn't chirp, nothing. Haku sat there on her knees. "Why didn't you finish me off?" she asked, her voice cold and dead. "What are you trying to say?" Naruto asked, his eyes back to their blue color. Haku was silent, but then she stood, her head bowed. "You don't understand now. You have taken away my reason for living. Zabuza has no need for weak shinobi, or a defective tool. You're not a tool." Naruto snapped at her. "What makes him so special anyway?" Haku bowed her head, and told Naruto of her history. She explained how in Water Country, those with bloodlines were seen as monsters and tools, and civil wars in Water Country had resulted in the deaths of nearly all the bloodline users in said country. "My mother was one of them," she said, her eyes lifeless. "And when my father found out, he killed her, and then tried to kill me, but I killed him. Then Zabuza found you." Naruto finished for her, his gaze saddened, knowing her life was somewhat like his, unwanted and alone. "Yes." Haku smiled, tears running down her eyes. "I was happy. He took me as his own and trained me to be his perfect tool. He was like a second father to me." But now she trailed off, looking to the side. "He has no need for a defective tool, so please Naruto, kill me." Over with Zabuza and Kakashi, the copycat ninja went through 4 hand seals before slamming his scroll onto the ground. Summoning. Earth style. Fang pursuit. He thought out, as rolls of kanji symbols stretched out, and the ground crackled with immense power. "It's useless, Kakashi. You can't figure out where I am. Without your Sharingan, you're useless. The next attack will be the lost." Zabuza's thoughts were interrupted, feeling some rumbling beneath his feet. Opening his eyes, he could hear what he thought was the sound of dogs barking, which was joined quickly by cracking noises. Looking at his feet, Zabuza was shocked to see when some dogs burst from the bridge, grabbing him and holding him tight in place. As the mist cleared, Kakashi saw Zabuza being held by a bunch of dogs. A huge bulldog bit into both of his right shoulder, rendering it useless. 2 Great Danes held his hands, 2 Labrador Retrievers held his arms, 2 Rottweilers bit into his thighs, 2 bit into his ankles, and a pug bit on the long cloth of his aid. All wearing blue capes with smiley faces on them, and leaf aid on various parts of their bodies. "How?" Zabuza asked despite the pain. "Earlier in the fight I let you wound me, and your weapons stink with my blood, so my hounds couldn't miss you," Kakashi said, as the fog lifted. "The fog is lifting. I can see your future, and your future is death." "You say my future is death? I've had enough of your bluffs," Zabuza raged. "Zabuza, you've had your fun. You schemed your schemes the day you deserted the village hidden in the mist, and became a missing nin. Your name and your reactions were reported to every village. We all know your failed coup d'etat you and your followers staged, and the attempt to assassinate the Mizukichi. Since then you've been trying to raise funds for a second attempt, and barely staying ahead of the hunter nins, which is what brought you here. It's why you'd stoop to work for scum like Gato," Kakashi said. Kakashi then did 3 hand seals, and used his left hand to brace his right wrist. A ring of crackling chakra appeared around him, and small bolts of electricity flowed from the ring into his hand. The bolts eventually stopped, and he now held a large blue bolt of lightning, which let out a terrible sound like the screeching of 1,000 angry birds. "You're a loose cannon. The man you're trying to kill, Tazuna, is the heart and spirit of this place. And the bridge you're trying to prevent him from completing is the land's hope. You're willing to sacrifice this place, and everyone in this village, just to advance your own ambitions," he continued. "Spare me the civics lesson and philosophy. You have no right in my affairs. Do your worst," Zabuza roared. "Then die. Lightning blade," Kakashi yelled, as he ran at Zabuza, his right hand at his side tearing through the bridge. He then brought his hand up to plunge it into his chest. But he saw a dark shape appear before him. Too late to pull back, he surged forward, thrusting his lightning-engulfed hand at Zabuza. Despite the tears, Naruto knew how Haku felt. He didn't want to do it, but sometimes there was no choice. Reaching into his kunai holster, he brought out his kunai knife, and ran at her, intending to make her death swift and painless. "Thank you, Naruto. Live on, and fulfill your dreams. I just wish we met under different circumstances." I know we would have been friends. Maybe even her thoughts were cut short when she sensed a massive chakra spike where Zabuza was. Just when Naruto was going to take a stab at her heart, she grabbed his wrist, preventing him from the killing blow. I'm sorry Naruto-kun, but I can't die yet, she said, not realizing she added a suffix to his name. She then proceeded to do a one-handed seal, and disappeared. What the? Naruto asked himself, seeing her disappear. Looking in the direction he knew Kakashi and Zabuza were fighting, he saw her appear in front of Zabuza, her arms wide open protecting him from Kakashi's lightning-covered hand. He felt his eyes widening, and he growled angrily. It wasn't fair, no one deserved to die like that. That was when he felt something in his legs. Apparently he unconsciously focused the fox's chakra into his legs. But he didn't care. Squatting down, he flew forward towards him. In a splash of blood, Kakashi saw with horror what he actually hit. Haku had reached Zabuza in time, but Naruto had shoved her out of the way, and took Kakashi prize through his chest, and out his back, the area with his blood. Well, Kakashi tried to get the words out, but Naruto grinned, despite the pain he was in. I couldn't let her die, he said, as Kakashi pulled his trembling, blood-soaked arm free from his student. Zabuza only scoffed, amazed by Naruto's tenacity. Saved by my enemy's student, all for a defective tool. Naruto, growling pale by the second, looked at the demon of the mist. His eyes were hard and cold. Don't you call her that, he said, trying to cover up the hole in his chest. How? Haku put her hands over her mouth, trying not to throw up. I don't know, I just guess. Naruto smiled at her, before puking up a glob of blood. Now listen here, no brow, coughs, she loves you like a father. He managed to yell out, going into a coughing fit that got worse with each cough. But he managed to smile through the pain. I'm dying, I know that much. Cough, and while I may be an idiot, I know one thing about the Seven Swordsmen last rites. Zabuza winced, hearing that it was a tradition in the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist to honor one request from the dying. That was if they earned their respect, and if it was reasonable. While he didn't want to admit it, the blonde brat earned his respect from their first meeting, being the only one who actually didn't fear him like the others. Fine, what is your wish? He asked, knowing it would abandon his mission. Cough, I want you to abandon this mission, and bring Haku and yourself to Konoha to, cough, become shinobi of the leaf. He managed to say, his voice growing weaker and weaker by the second. That was a shocker, the Dean of the Mist becoming a leaf shinobi. Kakashi thought it was an insane idea, but it would take a lot of strings to pull with the Hokage. And Zabuza was wondering if the blood loss was getting to his head. But sighing, he agreed. Last request accepted on my sword, Zabuza said, sealing the deal, looking at the dying blonde. Thank you, Zabuza. Naruto sighed out before he closed forever. The scene was heartbreaking. Only 4 people cried for the blonde. Kakashi cried for his student that he killed with his own hands. Zabuza actually cried for the first time since he defected from the mist, leaving behind someone very important to him. Haku cried looking at this boy, not this man who gave his life for her. And even Tazuna cried for the deceased blonde who gave his life to save a country that wasn't his own. The only people who didn't cry was Sakura, because she was tending to a wounded Sasuke, and because parents told her that Naruto was nothing but a demon, and gave her a mission to abuse him for her years in the academy, and kill him whenever she got the chance. And Sasuke, because he was unconscious at the time. However, the heartbreaking scene was ruined. Well, what do we have here? Came a familiar voice. It was Gato, and he had brought just about all of his henchmen. Looks like you're getting your ass kicked, Zabuza. Gato, Zabuza growled, in no mood for this. What do you want? And what's with those men? Sakura, who had brought an unconscious, filled Sasuke over. What's going on? She asked. Haku grimaced. It's our employer, she said wearily, tired from using her chakra. Hahigato chuckled. The plans changed. At first I wasn't going to pay you, and let the hunter Nin from Water Country know where you were. Zabuza grimaced. He knew this wasn't going to end well. But then I saw this fight, and thought that it'd be better to kill off you guys, and give the girls to my men, as part of a job well done. Sakura gasped in horror. Haku lifted herself to her feet, and glared at the short man who dared to betray them, as the rowdy group of men behind Gato leered at the girls. While the men were looking at them with absolute hatred. Etu saw her, and grinned evilly. Actually, as punishment for breaking my arm, my men can have you as their little toy, and I'll keep the pink-haired one after all. It's not every day that you find a girl with natural pink hair. I find it exotic. You will do no such thing to my daughter. Zabuza yelled out, slowly reaching behind his back with his good arm. Ha, well, when they're done she'll be calling us daddy. One bandit cheered, while the rest laughed with him. Get them all. Gato called out, raising his good arm to point like the stereotypical bad guy. The thugs cheered loudly, and began to run forward, but a kunai sinking into Gato's skull stopped them in their tracks. Nice shot. Kakashi commented on the demon of the mist. I've been wanting to do that for a long time. Zabuza smirked. I owe it to the kid at least. You killed our meal ticket. One bandit shouted at the ninjas. Now we're going to ransack the village. Another shouted out. However, when they were about to charge and ransack the village, an arrow embedded in front of them. Everyone looked to where it came from, and every able-bodied villager was there. While they were only carrying farming tools, their numbers far outmatched theirs, making them a little intimidated. "Kakashi, how much chakra do you have left?" Zabuza asked the copycat ninja. "Enough for one last," Kakashi replied to the demon of the mist. Nodding, Zabuza started going through 44 hand seals with Kakashi following until they ended on the rooster hand seal, water style. Water dragon jutsu. The two called out in a union, as two giant dragons made out of water flew up from under the bridge, slamming into the bandits, either sending them over the side of the bridge to their deaths, crushing them on impact, or drowning them. Either way, none survived. But the cost was heavy. Our young hero was dead, and nothing was going to bring him back. Or so everyone thought. "What am I going to tell the Hokage?" Kakashi sighed sadly. It's been 3 days since Naruto sacrificed himself to save Zabuza and Haku. He knew he couldn't procrastinate on an issue like this. After all, it's not every day you kill your sensei's son. Just tell him the truth, that he died protecting his precious person. Sasuke in a rare moment of kindness. But underneath his calm facade he was trying his best to cry in front of everyone. While he would never say it out loud, Naruto was his friend. The blonde always stuck by him during their academy days after his clan was slaughtered. Being an orphan, he knew his pain and loneliness of not having a family. Sakura, on the other hand, clearly didn't give a flying fuck. Her mom always told her that Naruto was the Kyuubi incarnate, and she believed every word like a good girl. And the result was her undertaking a private mission under the civilian council to destroy the blonde-haired demon any way necessary. Smirking inwardly, she took pride in what she did to make him suffer, distracting him from his studies as a shinobi with her beauty, causing him brain damage by hitting him repeatedly for doing the simplest things. While she was glad she had him wrapped around her finger, his death took a lot off her mind, so she can finally report back to her mom, and finally get her beloved Sasuke to finally notice her. Zabuza meanwhile stood up, causing Kakashi to glance at him. Sighing, the demon of the mist said to the copycat ninja, "Listen, I'm just heading to the bathroom. I swore on my sword that I would honor the kid's request, and I'm not going to break it." As he headed to the bathroom, the former Mist Anbu member reflected on the last 3 days. And he missed the kid. Well, he was an idiot. He had potential to surpass him. That's right, he was the one he mentioned to Kakashi on the bridge. The kid had spirit, and brought Haku and him closer together. He felt like smacking himself for being so oblivious to his weapon. I mean his surrogate daughter's feelings towards him. As he opened the door, he swore that if he broke his promise that he would take his own life. Haku, however, was sitting by the tsunami, both still shedding tears. Tsunamis were for the man who saved her and her son's lives, while hers were from what could have been. When she first saw him unconscious in the forest, it pained her to try and kill him, and for that she was glad that she didn't. His eyes looked much like hers before she found Zabuza. While she had no doubt that he was happy with his current precious people, his eyes showed her it just wasn't enough. Drying her tears once again, she made a silent vow to honor his sacrifice by living her life to the fullest. Dazuna drank himself into unconsciousness, unable to bear that a young soul sacrificed his life for a country that was not his own. A part of him died on that bridge 3 days ago, showing what a waste of life these shinobi go through. Naruto was only 12, almost 13, barely old enough to see life to its fullest. That was why he was going to name it the Great Naruto Bridge, to honor the life of Wave Country's savior before he passed out. Inari, however, was taking it the hardest. Naruto was the closest thing he had to a brother. But he dared not shed a tear out of sadness. No, that would be an insult to the man who saved his country. The only time he would ever cry was out of happiness, never sadness, that he swore on the grave of Kaiza, the first hero of Wave Country, and his father. None of them knew what would occur in the next hour. Unknown location. Is this hell or is this heaven? Naruto whispered quietly to himself. The sound echoed through the darkness, and he heard his own question repeated many times, distorted in some way. He could feel the vibrations of his own voice rippling through his body. Then there was another voice, and, as it spoke, the veil of shadow that had shrouded his senses was banished. No, this isn't hell. It is a place in between earth, heaven, and hell. It is the connection linking all three. It is a place of judgment, or known as limbo. The words came from every direction, and the voice was unlike any he had ever heard. As his sight returned, he could see a figure in front of him. It was monstrous, larger than even the Kyuubi, though it shared many of the same characteristics as a human. Only he had purple skin with horns on his head, and his long white hair flowed down to the giant's knees, and a dagger was held between his teeth. The man was wearing a big baggy black yukata. He was also slightly transparent, and glowed with a strange dark power. The presence hung, not like a killing intent, but rather like death itself was radiating from the ghost-like man. It was so powerful that it made Kyuubi's killing intent seem like nothing. Naruto gulped. He had never felt this much power before. This man had to be a god or demon, nothing else could house so much power. I am Shinigami, god of death. Naruto's eyes widened at this revelation. He was dead. He killed me, my sensei killed me. Naruto's eyes filled with sadness. He knew that something was off, but didn't know what. But what the god of death said practically was a chakra-reinforced punch by Sakura. He looked back at the Shinigami. God's orb-like eyes were boring a hole in his forehead. What? The god of death seemed a bit taken aback that a mortal would speak so bluntly with him. Well, looks you got a set of kahunas to speak to the divine. I know you're the lord of the afterlife, big fucking deal. Just send me to heaven, hell, or keep me here, either way I don't give a shit. Naruto said, crossing his arms in front of his chest, awaiting his judgment. He expected an angry scream, and got banished to hell for all eternity. But instead the god of death started chuckling, right before going into full-blown laughter. He waited for him to stop, but it continued on for 3 straight hours, bringing a bunch of tick marks to his head. What's so damn funny? He finally screamed out, getting tired of his laughter. Wiping a tear from his eye, the Shinigami chuckled one more time. You are a very amusing human, he managed to say, before letting loose a stream of chuckles. What do you mean by that? The blonde asked. Well, it was easy to confuse him. This was far by the most confusing thing that he ever experienced in his life. Kid, you are the first human to tell me off. No one, and I mean no one other than my brother, has told me off. And I find that hilarious. Shinigami said his respect went up a notch, but now on to important matters. I believe you know that you have passed on. Yes, I kind of figured that out since I met you. Naruto said, scratching his head. Cut the lip, smartus. I'm trying to say something important here. Shinigami snapped at him. Now, as I was saying, I'm here to make a deal with you. Wow, hold up, I ain't making any deal. Not without knowing what I'm in for. Wow, you're not as dumb as you look. I take offense to that. Naruto protested. Whatever, Blondie, let me guess, you aren't going to agree unless I tell you what I'm planning. Shinigami asked him, raising an eyebrow. In the words of the Yondaime Hokage, take it or leave it. Naruto said, bringing out a ghostly image that made the god of death blink to make sure he wasn't seeing things. You don't know half of the words you just said. Shinigami thought, remembering those words from so long ago. Alright, but listen closely, I'm only going to say this once. He said, making Naruto nod. I have been watching you closely, and I must say you have earned my full respect, and more. And that is nearly impossible. So I'm going to offer you a second chance at life. I will send you back to your world. I will repair and enhance your old body to the point that you will be unrecognizable to everyone. He finished, making Naruto's eyes widen in excitement. What about the fox? Our blonde hero asked, wondering if you would be rid of him once and for all. Unfortunately, Kyuubi's soul will remain in your body. Now before you complain I just can't take him out, it is the will of my mother destiny that you two stay bound together. Seeing the blonde frown, and bringing his head down in disappointment, Shinigami shrank down to the size of a 6-foot-tall human, and ruffled his hair in a fatherly fashion. Hey, don't look so down. There's a gift that I'm going to bestow you, as my vassal, a power that makes even the mightiest demon quiver in fear. Naruto looked at the god with only slight comprehension. What's this power you speak of? He asked, wondering what a vassal was. It is the power of the darkness flame, Shinigami replied. The darkness flame? Yes, the most powerful fire next to Amaratsu's flames. Powerful hellfire flames that will burn through anything, and I mean anything. The blonde couldn't help but smirk, but one thing came to his mind. What's a vassal? It means you serve me. You will be my subordinate, the first actually. You will follow my orders like your Hokage and sensei, but what I say goes. Shinigami said, causing the blonde to frown. Don't worry, it's not like you're my slave for eternity. You will still have all your freedoms, but when an order comes up I expect you to do it. Breathing out a sigh of relief, the blonde relaxed. After thinking it over for a few minutes he answered, one of the highest powers in existence. I accept your deal, Lord Shinigami. I'm glad to hear it, but please no honorifics. You're supposed to be yourself, not some religious nut like those blasted Jashiness freaks. Shinigami sighed, really hating those guys. Jashiness? Wait, never mind, I'll ask later, but I have a question for you, if you'll allow it. Go ahead and ask, I just may answer it. Since you are the god of death you probably know who my parents were. So can you please tell me who they are? Naruto asked a question that has been bugging him for the past 12 years. I'm afraid you will have to ask your Hokage. But I can say that mother was an Uchiha. What? My mom was a Uchiha. So I'm related to Sasuke team. Why does God hate me? Naruto cried out in disbelief, doing a bunch of exaggerated movements, causing the god of death to sweat drop, wondering if this was a good idea. Kid, my brother doesn't hate you, I know this for a fact, trust me. He replied, making him stop at an awkward angle. Alright, fine, can I go back now? After all, I can't ask the old man if I'm dead. Naruto asked, standing straight up. Hold up, before you leave, I have a couple assignments for you. Fine, lay it on me. Naruto sighed, wanting to get this over with. First I'm going to awaken your Sharingan, and I want you to name it, because it's going to be a new bloodline. 2. Get rid of that god-forsaken jumpsuit. I'll supply you some clothes later. 3. You're going to sign the Fox contract Kyuubi, and I know he will give you it. 4. I want you to kill a man named Orochimaru and Madara Uchiha. They have been a pain in my ass for far too long. And 5. Don't fawn over that pink-haired bitch. Instead pursue that Hyuga girl and that ice babe. Shinigami, why do you care about my love life? Naruto asked suspiciously. Shinigami actually chuckled nervously and scratched the back of his head. Well, for one, I know that you've been secretly seeing that Hyuga girl, and I know that you know that her love runs deep within her for a knucklehead like you. Plus that girl with that ice bloodline, well, she's well hot and is developing feelings for you. And before you ask how I know, it's simple. Cupid is a good friend of mine, and he knows that he gets bored in limbo. So he shoots people for everyone's amusement, though he seriously fucked up when he shot you for the pink-haired bitch. Take that back, Sora is not. Quite. The god of death roared at him. She is a total bitch, the worst girl I have ever witnessed to date. You may be a god, but I know her, and he was interrupted again when the powerful deity punched him in the face. The blonde flew back a few feet before hitting an invisible wall, knocking him unconscious. He stirred a couple minutes later, but he was frowning, and his eyes held a dark look. Is this true? He asked sadly. Yes, she isn't what you thought she was. Her, and that damn civilian council of yours, have been fucking you over your entire life. That was the sole reason I punched you, to transfer a small part of my memory to show you I wasn't lying. After a long while our blonde hero stayed quiet. Is there anything else you wish for me? He finally asked, his voice still sad, but happy at the same time in a weird way. Yes, I want you to drop your mask because I'm sick and tired of you making yourself look like an ass all the time. Shinigami retorted in a mocking tone. Nodding, Naruto accepted Shinigami's terms. I'll do as you say, but I have a few questions, he asked. Ask away. For me, killing those two men, isn't Orochimaru the snake Sannin who betrayed Konoha? And who the hell is Madara Uchiha? Isn't he part of my family? Listen, Orochimaru is trying to obtain immortality, which is a pain in my ass. Just think if other people were to discover how he gained immortality, the entire balance of life will get fucked up. Plus they've been doing sick and unusual experiments, thus forcing me to send good spirits to hell because they turned evil because of him. As for Madara, yes, he's part of your family, however he has gained immortality, but that's not the worst part. He somehow took control of Kyuubi not once, but twice. He was the one who fucked up your life and pretty much cursed you to damnation. You have to be fucking kidding me. Kid, I'm a god, and gods don't lie. Then there was silence, a very uncomfortable silence, so Shinigami decided to break it. Why does this bother you? I know you took your first life before. Well, they seem strong. I mean, I'm only at high genin level at best. Do I have to? Oh god, no, they are your primary targets. Well, I want them dead, as soon as possible. They don't have to be killed right away. After all, what use would you be if you died on me? Shinigami said coolly. Well, it was kind of cold to him. Naruto knew that he was right. But they won't be the only ones. You will have secondary targets when I come up with them. Alright, now for naming my bloodline, can you give me some time to name it? I can't really come up with something this important on the fly. Naruto said, hoping that he could go back now. Alright, I'll give you some time. Now it's time for me to send you back. Remember, death is your ally. Go forth and be my agent of death to those unworthy of their lives. Shinigami told Naruto as he faded away and the blackness receded. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome